Recorded live at 4ZZZ Studios Brisbane on 102.1 FM and broadcast across Australia on the Community Radio Network.
You're listening to Z Games. With 10 years experience and over 500 episodes, Z Games brings you the best in gaming news, reviews, community and culture. Want to reach out? Message us on Facebook at ZEVGamesAU.
My name is Evie, and I'm here with...
Paul!
Paul! How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing fantastic. Evie, thanks for asking. How are you doing tonight?
I'm pretty good. It's your first time in studio.
First time in studio, first time in radio. Not the first time talking.
That's reassuring. I mean, it's come out real nice, your first attempt at talking, if that's the case.
I got my name correct, so I'm very happy about that. And now it's just up and up from here.
You're making me think of Speaking Sim, actually. Speaking Simulator, with a Brisbane local game, actually. You know, moving the mouth.
I'm pushing my tongue to the roof now, and
Paul.
Paul is here to talk about video games.
Oh, you sounded almost sort of like Nordic then for a brief moment.
Yeah, I'm terrible with accents, but I do them accidentally all the time.
Well, it's good that you're here, Paul, because I've been looking forward to having you on the show for a couple of weeks now. Obviously, we're limited to one other person, so two people in studio here at 4ZZZ still at the moment, which is good because we're considering all our most vulnerable volunteers at the station, making sure everyone stays safe. So I understand that. And that also means that Paul has to be the furthest distance away from me in the studio.
That's right. The only contact is by throwing things.
Yes. But first you must sanitize, then throw.
Yes.
Of course.
If you throw sanitized products, like get some hand sanitizer and throw it directly at you, that does work quite well.
I don't know what it's called.
Glen 20?
That'll do.
Okay.
Whoosh. The rest of the show was just the sound of Glen 20 spray into the microphone. Anyway, on Z Games we talk about games or gaming things, and Paul is definitely a gamer for sure. So we'll be listening to him a little bit later tonight, getting to know him a bit better, what he likes to play, and just a general conversation about all things gaming. But before we get there, we will be talking about the news, and it's been an interesting week in news, so hang in there for that. At the very end of the show, Paul is actually really going out on a limb tonight. He's doing his very first review as well. Look at you go.
It's going to be the most formal I've ever done a review. Normally just banter. Now I'm going to pretend it has a structure and I know facts about it instead of just off the cuff.
Just like I was saying before we went on air about how we don't get paid, so you don't get paid for structure. It's okay, I'm sure.
It won't be very structured, don't get me wrong there.
It will be semblance of sentences and things strung together.
I looked up two people's names, and yeah, that's most of the research.
Fantastic. Check, ready to go. All right, without further ado, I think we should get into the news. This week in gaming news, Summer Game Fest, IGN Summer of Gaming, and of course PS5 announcements. That's right, let's recap on some of what's been happening with the replacement E3 events this last week. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, E3 2020 was cancelled earlier in the year. However, thanks to the awesome power of the internet, streaming via Twitch, YouTube and other platforms has made game publishers and developers game reveals, announcement and revolutionary game changes easier to broadcast despite the physical setbacks. So let's run through some of the highlights so far. Star Wars Squadron was announced by EA and dropped their reveal trailer, teasing you with space combat, X-Wings, Y-Wings, A-Wings, and a lot more. PlayStation 5 unveiling which showcases a design not yet seen in any other console made by Sony. If you haven't already seen the memes circulating, you might want to check it out. Jim Ryan, the president of Sony Interactive Entertainment, has said the PlayStation sits in the living room of most homes, and we kind of felt it would be nice to provide a design that would really grace most living areas. We think we've been successful in that. Just before Sony PS5 reveal, Xbox dropped another promo for the Xbox Series X, showing off new footage of games as well as some gameplay. PlayStation have also revealed many games coming to the future gen console. Some of the big ones to highlight are Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, a standalone game. PlayStation blog post says the latest adventure in the Spider-Man universe will build on and expand Marvel's Spider-Man through an all-new story. Players will experience the rise of Miles Morales as he masters new powers to become his own Spider-Man. There's also Horizon Forbidden West, the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn. This installment will feature Aloy yet again, travelling farther than ever before, where she will encounter new wildlife, beautiful scenery, and of course, captivating narrative. Ratchet and Clank are back in a new game that will feature a story about multiple dimensions. Other games coming to the PlayStation 5 are Resident Evil Village, the sequel to Resident Evil 7, Hitman 3, Demon's Souls Remake, GTA 5, The Last of Us Part 3, Destiny 2, Gran Turismo 7, and NBA 2K21. There are also many, many more, and if you'd like to check out the full list, head over to the Z Games Facebook page at ZEDGamesAU. PAX Australia 2020 has officially been postponed. The PAX team posted a statement on the 16th of June saying, "It is with a heavy heart that today we announce the postponement of PAX Australia 2020 due to the ongoing impacts of COVID-19 in Australia and globally. While we can't move forward with PAX Australia 2020 in the way that we normally would, we are finding new and exciting ways to connect you and the PAX community with your favourite content and creators. Stay safe and be kind." That's all this week in gaming news. Well, there you have it, an interesting week in gaming news. Pretty much everything, in quotations, not E3. Since E3, not a thing.
There is a lot of not E3. And weirdly, the biggest thing at the moment is Sony, which were already out of E3 anyway. So they've taken the...
Yeah, most of the news that I actually just recapped is games coming out on PlayStation 5.
Yeah, the so far event-wise that fall under the banner of not E3 or Faux 3 or E3 at home, however you want to refer to it.
Faux 3 sounds good.
It's like sort of there was the Xbox Inside, which didn't blow everyone away because it was just the worst marketing ever, but they still get to do their real thing. So it was Inside Xbox, the Wholesome Direct, Indie Live Expo, IGN, the Escapist Indie Showcase, Future of Gaming on PlayStation 5, Guerrilla Collective, PC Gaming Show, Future Games, a few more other days. And this morning at 2 a.m. was Upload VR Showcase.
Yes.
And we're halfway through the list, and not everyone. We still don't have Microsoft's announcement of when they're going to do their big thing.
Well, it's supposed to span all the way up until August.
Yeah.
So May to August, which is
all
insane.
Jeff Keighley's stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
It's like, here's half a year of an online expo, which, we're not really in a position here in Australia to actually attend E3 every year necessarily. Someone fund us. And then, then there's other events and stuff like PAX in the US, there's PAX EU as well, I think. Was it PAX? No, there's another one.
Well, there's Gamescom and stuff
yes.
like that, and Tokyo Game Show. And
Tokyo, all that. So, we're not always in a position to see these live things unravel in the flesh.
And E3, I mean, I'm not sure, but as a young lad growing up, E3 was the promised land to go to. We must go one day.
Yeah, because they had like a Blizzard section, and they have it was everything.
And over the years, it sort of diminished more and more what was on the show floor, but the conferences became live streamed, so we kind of all had that experience at home. And what I started doing with my friends was we wouldn't watch them live. We would have like an Oscar party style thing where we'd turn off the internet for a day. Then we'd all meet up at night with a lot of beverages, and we would watch them all together and have a great time. And it was gone! Now it takes 3 months!
That's the dream. But now it's like instantly live at 2 a.m. and like random times. And Paul, you have a little one, so that's not always feasible to be up that late, right?
I do. 9 weeks as of yesterday he is. Little Henry.
Little one.
So I got to become one of those gamer dads eventually.
Yes, and you'll be handing him a little Nintendo or...
Yeah, I think that's going to be...
Here you go.
We probably won't have that content for a few years, but it will be interesting what we can start him on. It'll be, from my experience with my nephews, it is more of a, like, go for a SNES Mini or something like that with just directional controls and a couple of
Atari,
buttons.
like the Joy-Con.
I do have an old
No,
Atari there. I actually still have the paddle control games.
Yes.
So maybe
There you go.
my first console that I used to play was an Intellivision. Play Shark on that. Do you know those controllers?
I don't. I was
Those-
about to say, I'm not sure what that is.
They're literally a keypad. So it was
Ah.
a sort of bubble buttons on a keypad, and you would slide a piece of plastic in front of it, which had the game's control on
Oh,
it.
wait. No, I have seen this before.
Yeah.
I've just not played it.
They're incredible.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I mean, in a certain
it's
viewpoint,
like
they're incredible.
collecting all these things over
Yeah.
here. Oh, actually, speaking of all these different events and so many different things, like, first of all, I really want to get into some of the games that were mentioned, but
Oh, yeah. There is a lot.
there's a lot to mention. But with tonight, because tonight there's some stuff happening, and if you're listening to this in a different time, by tonight I mean the 17th of June. Tonight is Tim Watts, who is a member of the Labour Party, is actually hosting a Twitch stream on the future of the games industry. You can actually head to Tim Watts' Twitch channel. It's from 6:30 p.m. till 7:15 p.m. tonight, so that's going to be relevant for anyone who works in the industry if you'd like to take a look at that. There's also tonight, 1 hour before midnight, so 11 p.m. tonight, Pokemon will be presenting something, the Pokemon Company. So something will be coming out relevant to the DLC that comes out at midnight tonight. So there is some stuff happening if you'd like to take a look at that.
Yeah, because Nintendo they're not even doing E3.
Yeah.
Because they said it was too hard to do the production, so they're just going to drop individual things like the Paper Mario Origami King a few weeks ago.
Yes, I saw that too.
So-
But that's why tonight that Pokemon will be. So yeah, Nintendo basically going, yo, there's some Pokemon related content at. I think it's a reasonable hour in Japan, but not here.
Yeah.
So 11 o'clock tonight. Tune in for that. It's on the Pokemon YouTube channel, so it's pretty easy to find. But moving back to these games that PlayStation 5 have released, because not really much else that I've personally just been like, oh my god, yes, so far. Horizon, what is it? Forbidden West. I'm so excited. Like, I played an hour of Horizon Zero Dawn yesterday, just in the afternoon.
Just to prep you.
Just to I need to get the controls back. What's the feeling of this? And I was like, oh, this is so, I'm so excited to see Aloy again. Yeah, I feel like a little kid in a candy store.
It's going to be really interesting what they do with that sort of structure-wise of the game, because it came out 1 week before Breath of the Wild. And it sort of it will still make a hit, don't get me wrong, but it lost a little bit of the game design luster because it was quite traditional, and Breath of the Wild really changed a few things.
Yes.
And now they know what they're doing. They've got a great engine. Visually, the new game is spectacular.
Yeah.
New environments, underwater stuff. It's wild, but yeah, whether or not they move to something a bit more open and exploratory, or it'll be interesting to see.
I like the premise because, I don't know if you haven't watched. The premise is essentially that Aloy ends up traveling further inland. There's
To the Forbidden West.
Into the further west, as the name would suggest.
Are we allowed to sing the Pet Shop Boys here?
Probably.
Great.
Let me just put that down so we don't get copyright. And let's go. No, but basically she travels further inland, and there's something to do with, I think, probably another villain, my understanding, who...
There's a plague of some sort.
Yeah, that's contaminating. So you're not really fully sure, but... And
there's, at the end of the trailer, they show some other tribal groups that you haven't encountered before, and they are Dino Rider style on a giant elephant, just all armored up.
Yes.
It's very, very wild.
I'm so excited. I'm just thinking about being able to ride one of them.
With the premise, you probably will be able to.
So I'm pretty excited. There's also Spider-Man, Miles Morales. It's going to be standalone. I honestly thought that they were going to have some kind of extra content on the Spider-Man PlayStation 4.
Yeah, it's interesting because you think from what they did, because they used the Spider-Man engine to demo a lot of the PS5 technology previously, so they're obviously playing with that. So they're going to be leveraging that to some degree, plus all the new moves from Miles Morales, and it's probably not a big enough change for them to say a 2 at the end of the name, but I bet it's going to be just as big a game as Spider-Man,
it'd be huge. I mean, Well, Miles Morales, if anyone hasn't actually watched Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, that's who this game is based off of. There are some extra powers, essentially.
Yeah, he's a different kind of
There's going to be new mechanics. There's going to be a new system feel because this Spider-Man is innately different from the traditional Spider-Man that we know. So that's...
I would have killed to have one in the style of Into the Spider-Verse, though. That visual style. Ooh. Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
It makes me think of that Borderlands...
Yeah, the cel-shaded look around, yeah.
Oh, so much happening out there currently with this not E3 that's going to be spanning another few months. So we'll be keeping everyone in the loop on what's happening there. So, Paul.
Hi.
What are you doing in here? No, I'm kidding.
Well, the door was unlocked and I decided to just move my way in.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess so. You can do that. Don't tell anyone that I left the studio door unlocked. No, I was actually going to say, how did you end up here? I mean, you saw the application to join the show, and
yes, I was actually forwarded from a friend of mine that I do an online podcast with. He saw it and said, "Oh, you should do this because I've been looking to reach out and do more things." As we are all, well, he and I are middle-aged men now. And, getting new things to do is quite difficult at this age. You know, we've got our friends ingrained. We've got families. We've got all this rubbish. It takes up time. What I need is more time talking about video games.
Clearly, I mean, that's on my to-do list.
Yeah.
I mean, I've spent the last 2.5 months solo with a whole hour every week to just tell the local community what I think about everything gaming.
I can see the joy in your face now that you can actually... talk to somebody instead of just talking to a pre-recorded news recording of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, bringing myself in after listening to myself from an earlier part of the week is a unique experience, to say the least. But it's nice to have people in here again, and it's nice to have new voices such as yourself, because I have actually... You have a podcast, 8.5 bit?
8.5 bit. I thought a good old Fellini reference would go over well with the community, because not everyone's seen 8.5, but everyone knows about it. You know, AFI Top 100 film and all that stuff. I was wrong. I found out I'm just a pretentious film person, and not everyone knows 8.5.
I literally just thought of 2-bit pixel games.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's crossover with it. But yes, we were like, oh, well, we talk about sort of indie stuff and, I like the arty side. And whilst, maybe Fellini's not my favorite director, but, he inspired a lot of my favorite directors and stuff like that because my background is film primarily as well as games. I go, oh, this is a good joke. Everyone likes a good joke. No, they don't get the joke, but it's a good name. People remember it, which is nice.
Well, I think... Because you came highly recommended from Jack, the previous producer of Z Games, and he's like, "Oh, Paul's lovely, he's great," and I was like, "Oh, see, I have to check him out now." Because originally, you actually snuck your application in not 2 hours before I closed it. I was sort of like, okay, I've got a few people here, and then I wasn't sure how that would go, and then I saw Paul Broadhurst. And I was like, oh, that's a nice name.
The elder statesman of Brisbane gaming.
Yeah. The most regal name in here.
36. There is no higher age.
Highest level. High level. Level 36. And I thought, yeah, okay. Lucky I didn't close it at midnight and just left it till the next morning.
I was happy it was still open. I was busy with the baby at night. I forgot. Look, I got up to walk the dogs and it was still there. Yes.
You have a newborn, that definitely takes priority over applying for community radio show. So.
Yeah. So.
But you got both now.
Yeah.
You got the baby and the show.
Got the baby. Got the show. Got my long-established video game career of doing very little, but that's all good.
I'm pretty sure that's everyone's. Isn't that everyone's bio when it comes to industry? It's like, yeah, I made some stuff.
Yeah, well,
once.
It gets slightly awkward each year because I run a bunch of panels down at PAX Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm writing up the bios of everyone we've got on the panel. It's like game dev, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, artist, musician. Okay, this is all good. And it's like, and you, obnoxious.
Talker of games.
I have a diploma in game design that I have never used. Good. Okay, great.
Well, I was thinking, now that you say that, I have a diploma in games that you've never used. I also have a diploma of games that I've recently gained and also have not used. Not
Yet.
in not in the way of a junior developer's sense, but in the sense of, since I have done that diploma, I am now feel well and truly confident to discuss games and feel like I know what I'm talking about.
You know everything by that point.
Well, I know everything in the sense of how a game is from a concept to the end result. I know that process now.
It is good to, in all seriousness, that is good to know more of a structure of how a video game is built. Because one of the most frustrating things I'm sure you've encountered talking to communities online is when people say things like lazy devs and they should just add this. And when you have a concept of what this entails, you can sometimes be a little bit more understanding and empathetic of what the situation is actually going on. So yeah, a bit of a background is a good way of understanding the industry.
It's also the language, because there's lots of different frameworks and stuff that people can work off of. Not all of them being like, this is the way it's supposed to be, even though people be like, it's like an artist going, oh, only modern art is real art, and someone else is like, no, only art from the 18th century made by blah blah blah. You know, like, it's kind of like that. And because games industry is so young, you've got all these different concepts on how, like, the formula of how you make games is supposed to be.
Or even the age-old and incredibly boring conversation of what is a game. It's like, I know what you're trying to get at, but honestly, it's like, does it run on a computer? Is it in some way interactive? And that interactive might be pushing a go button.
Yeah, well,
you can be very broad. It's a very young industry, and we're doing new stuff all the time, which is why I love games. I tend to play.
I just call games like interactive mediums.
Yeah.
And like, actually, recently, you're just reminding me of. I ran into someone in the elevator at my apartment block who's like, "Oh, how's your gaming going?" She's an older lady. That was a terrible voice, but she's like,
"How's the gaming going?"
Pretty much. Yeah. And she's like, "I'm not into that sort of thing." And I was like, "That's cool. But have you ever played solitaire?" And she was like, no, I don't know how to computer. I'm like, okay. Have you ever played? She's like, oh, I do my crosswords every Sunday. I was like, there you go. That's an interactive game. There's an objective there, which is to get all the words, and then you find out if you win the next week. Well, like, that's a game. So
everyone games in some degree, even if it's just luck games.
Even if it's hopscotch.
Yeah. What I've loved recently is introducing non-gamers to VR. Because VR is, when you're just using your body as a controller, most people get it in a few seconds. You don't have to learn where the A button is or what a stick does, because those concepts are actually quite complex for people that don't play. So ask their second nature, who cares? Push L3. Of course, we push in the stick. Fine. But yeah, when you are playing Beat Saber and you've just got to swing your arm and cut a block, people understand swinging their arm. So yeah, I can get quite elderly people playing VR games pretty easily. In those days, they're normally like, let's look at some whales. But whales are great.
So, Paul, tell me, speaking of games, ironically, what are your favorite games and what brings you into the world of games?
Okay, so I decided, this is always a question that is difficult whenever someone loves a medium. They go, what is your favorite? Like, well, that's a silly question. Mm-hmm. I love everything. So when I was young, I was primarily a PC gamer, primarily playing adventure games. So the Monkey Island series was really huge for me, all the LucasArts adventure games. So Monkey Island then, and then as an adult, I got to become, let's call a close acquaintance with Ron Gilbert, who was behind those games. That was through the first packs, actually, which was really exciting. What I love about gaming is even your heroes are just nerds. So you just go and hang out with them and have a beer and chat and talk about video games because we all like it. So yeah, sort of adventure games starting there. And then when I was a teenager, I really, there's a game called MDK that Shiny Interactive made. But the team broke off from Shiny and started their own studio called Planet Moon. And they were making a game called Giant Citizen Kabuto, which is I really got into when I started running the official fan site and doing some work with that. So it's the first game I ever got my name in the credits for. And it was in development for quite a long time, so it took half of my high
stardom.
School. And you would have enjoyed it because Giants, if you've never seen it, is you play 3 races. It's a third-person action game. You play these little spacemen, or you play a female sea witch, and you can control the elements, or you play a giant called Kabuto. Which is sort of like a Godzilla King Kong mix. And then in multiplayer, it was asymmetrical multiplayer, which was half strategy game, half fighting each other. You know, you could be flying around with your 5 little squad jetpack guys shooting someone while the witch calls in the a Sea Reaper is what she's actually called, but it's a witch ostensibly. She calls in a tornado which pulls you up in the air, and then a big monster runs through and grabs you out of the air and eats you. It was pretty cool. It's still pretty unique. You know, sort of wild, surreal art style as well, very colourful. So that was a big part of my middle age. And then, so Game of the Year last year, and actually a game I'd been anticipating for probably about half a decade, Outer Wilds, which is just a sublime piece of game making, just having that simulated universe on the time loop that keeps going around, and just creating narratives in a world that doesn't have a fixed narrative. It's you start, you can see up something in the sky, and then you've got 20 minutes before the universe ends. And I had so many moments in that game because the whole game is learning things, and you take nothing with you when you die. You restart the loop again, but you take the knowledge that you've learned. So the whole game is gated through knowledge, and what you learn and how things interact is really phenomenal, and one of the greatest pieces of game design I think's ever been made. And it also looks cool, and it's fun to play, which is also a very good thing.
And it's fun to play.
So yeah, I thought that I'll use those to point out who I am as a gamer. But I will play a stupid amount of games. I may not play them very long, but I might play a dozen new games in a week.
Yeah, you and I also discovered in the last couple of weeks that we both have the same sickness, which is that we love to purchase a great number of games and not really play them, or we do play them, but like years after we've purchased them for maybe like a few hours. And there's a lot.
Thank God for bundle sites. At least is that. But yeah, and one of the things we like doing is trash games, and we don't use that term in a derogative way. We mean sort of outside of art, games that are really rough around the edges and have cool things. And so we just have lists of complete stupid, and that's one of the things we started doing at PAX, just showing off these complete oddities that exist, made by people that don't really know what they're doing, but still come up with awesome things. So
that's what you want.
Yeah,
that's what you want, though. Ah, boy. I mean, I've actually recently, because when I got into itch.io, which I only was introduced to when I was studying game design, didn't know it even existed. When I went there, I was like, wow, this is where all the weird things live. It's like where the wild things are. Like, that's where I found pretty much most of my really deep and interesting little experiences. Like, something that was really drilled into me at uni was, play AAA games. They're great. They're fantastic.
Of course.
And they're masterpieces in their own right for a different reason. But there's also this other realm of the gaming world where there's these short, tiny, little, meaningful things. Play lots of them, because as a designer, they're going to be more useful to you than, World of Warcraft or these massive productions with millions of dollars.
You're not going to make the next Uncharted by yourself.
Exactly. And having like the concept that, I guess for anyone listening who might actually be interested in game design or interested in creating something interactive, start small. Don't look at these big things like Outer Wilds or Horizon Zero Dawn, because Horizon Zero Dawn was made by hundreds of people over the course of a decade. So these things are big and beautiful, but it's the little things in life that are precious, and that transcends beyond just the industry. So
yeah, and Itch is great because it's not even it's people just straight up making art in it and stuff like that. And they had the bundle that they put up last week, the racial injustice and equality bundle.
Yes, that
just finished, and I wrote a note here. It got 8.2 million US.
Yes.
So
just having a little clap. Just having a little
good
clap.
Good fundraising there. And also, if you got that was 1,400 products on Itch. They had to.
I thought it was 1,700 by the end.
Maybe it got up to that by the end. I didn't check.
Boy, it was so many.
They had to introduce a search function into the bundle.
Wow. That's amazing. You people out there are amazing, and you well and truly deserve those games. So thanks everyone who donated to that. Not that I represent Itch by any means, but that's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah. They're an organization that the structure is normally pay what you want for a lot of things, or pay more if you want to, and most of it goes to the developer. They're really low key. As far as independent devs go, it's something to support.
Paul, I believe you have a review for us.
I do, and I
take it away.
I even have an intro because it's the best intro of all times. Like, it's the worst wedding intro of all times. Wikipedia defines barotrauma.
Oh, God. Here we go.
It's the physical damage to the... I don't actually need to do that.
I did Google that, though. That's quite disturbing what barotrauma is. Carry on.
Yes. It's injuries you're getting a difference of pressure. So barotrauma is, as the developers call it, a 2D drowning simulator.
Yep.
This game first came into early access. It's still in early access at the moment. And I'm reviewing it because I believe it's pretty much a full product anyway. They're just going to continue doing it. So that's how I view early access. That's fine by me. It's made by Undertow Games and Fake Fish. They're Finnish developers. And it's a really interesting background to it because it's actually an open source game. You can go and download the full source for this game. The license just doesn't allow you to redistribute it because it's very big on just allowing anyone to go in and mod it. But more of that later. It is a 2D submarine simulator. You play a class in that, so you can be a captain, mechanic, an engineer, doctor, and soldier. And otherwise, there's also just a generic assistant you can be, which is great. It's a very serious-looking game. It looks very dreary. Everyone is a sort of 2D cutout puppet. And it's multiplayer, so you really want to fill a submarine with about 12 to 16 people at best. And the whole game is systems driven. So every character has their roles that they try to play. You can actually do anything as any character, but you have a set role and you're best at those roles. And what comes out of it is chaos. So everything in the submarine is simulated. So say a door won't open. Maybe someone's cut the wiring to the door or something like that, and an engineer has to come and rewire the door and get through it. These are minor things. But then so the whole thing happens on Jupiter, on the moon of Europa, and I only realized that because I was playing single player, and single player has bots, and you can control them, you can tell them what to do, and they actually have additional dialogue when there's bots there. So they said, "Hey, do you remember the Earth? Oh, that was a great place."
See ya.
So I played a few games with some friends of mine in hilarious antics, mainly smashing the submarine into things and breaking our legs and getting burnt by horrible creatures under the water and all the sort of chaos that comes from a systemic multiplayer game. And I might go into a few of those brief stories to explain, but last night I realized I hadn't played a public game. So I've been playing it quite a lot, but I just hadn't taken that leap. That leap's always a big one for me. You don't know what a community's going to be like.
Yep.
And a game that's serious in its appearance and extremely heavily modded, where people are working on their own content all the time, and they're all these serious looking. It's like, okay, what are these people going to be like? Okay, half of them are Russian. That's good. That shows the seriousness there. And most people role play. So it ended up being, at least in my experience so far, an incredibly accessible community. Because even if a griefer joins, the griefer becomes part of the narrative. So if a game is already in progress, they're in a submarine, they're trying to get to somewhere to collect something is the mission. But you don't spawn on the submarine, you spawn in another shuttle. And you've got to actually maneuver over to the submarine and dock with it to get out. You can die before you get to the submarine that the actual mission's on.
Right.
So we get there, and there's some guy that spawned with us, and he's got 2 knives. So we're all trying to get in a suit so that we're protected unless someone's trying to navigate, and someone's just saying, "There's some guy here with 2 knives trying to stab everyone. Quick, arrest him, arrest him." And one of the security officers runs over and tries to handcuff him, and we lock him in the hold and stuff like that. And it didn't matter that he was a griefer. It was fine because we dealt with it, and I got stabbed. But so, because all these systems, like everything is sort of permissible or works, and at some point the submarine crashed and we all wiped, but we came back to it and we cleaned it up and stuff like that. But every time I've died in this game, which is a lot, it's been fun. And I think that's a real testament to it.
Yeah, that's cool.
So the first mission I went on with my friend James, we were doing very well. We had worked out how to navigate the ship because you can't see outside the ship. You can use sonar. The first time he tried it, he forgot to turn the sonar on, so he just slammed straight into the bottom of the seafloor and we broke our legs. But then we worked it out and we got to this other ship and we swam over to it. We got kitted up. We had put on our diving suits and got some weapons. Okay, and we opened the door and there was a green amoeba-ish style thing there. Okay, I don't know what this is. I'll go up to it. It hurt me. Okay, it's bad. Great. I've learnt that now. I've learnt a lot of things so far on this trip. I'll shoot it with my harpoon. I got a few experience points. Great. I'm doing very well. I'm go towards the green amoeba thing, and it explodes. And so now I'm unconscious and I'm quite severely burnt. We didn't bring any medical supplies with us. So he grabs my body and he starts dragging us back to our submarine. We're doing very well at this point, obviously. We get back to the hatch. James is about out of oxygen, but it's okay. We're back at the submarine. We go in the airlock, open up the other side, and there's no real difference because while we were away, something's breached the hull, and the submarine is now full of water. At this point, I die from my injuries, and James quickly drowns afterwards. But we had a great time doing it. Yeah.
Wow, it sounds like an exciting game.
It is. It's an incredible thing, because the company was actually made with the view of community development. So they've made a commercial product. It's there, but it's very, very open for people to mod. And even inside the game, it's incredibly moddable. So you have a creator for making submarines and making monsters. So you may even be interested in looking at it because it's not just let's go draw a mustache on a monster and that's done. It's basically like the full-on Unity editor. Like you can bring in basically anything. You're scripting. It is a game development tool and a serious one at that.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at some of the pictures on Google search. There are a lot of creatures that people have added into this.
There's some horrific things in there, and some very funny things.
Yeah, there's the parasite. Well, alien for one. Alien from Alien vs Predator just pops up,
So,
and like sea dinosaur things.
I've got at the end of one of my parasite adventures. So I thought I was rescuing some people, but they were infected. They got me and they gave me a kiss. And I looked at my health because you can look at your body, and I had a parasite inside me. So in there it lists things that might destroy what's wrong with you. So I go back to my ship and it says sulfuric acid might kill the parasite. So I drink it and it kills me because of course it does. And at what point my body gets reanimated and starts killing the rest of my crew.
Wow.
So
Beautiful.
it didn't kill the parasite either, so I think I did that one wrong.
Acid.
It's like,
I think that's good to ingest.
yeah. When I was playing on the service last night, we were on a silly server, and I found a clown costume, and I just dressed up in it, and just spent the whole time communicating with my honking horn. So it's not... It looks deathly serious, but it's very funny.
It's quite... Yeah, it's got lots of dark... Because, I mean, you're in a submarine in, like, the bottom of the ocean, so it is dark, obviously. It's very dark.
Yes.
You've got, like, one light coming out of the sub.
The power goes out, and suddenly all the lights go out.
Yeah, it looks kind of, like, horror-esque, almost.
And it certainly has that edge, and if you're playing it seriously and going in, you can do that. But it's also incredibly lighthearted if you want it to be. And as I say, I haven't had a death that I thought was... You get angry. It's like, that's rubbish. It's like every time it's been, I've learned something, because learning with death is always important. If you haven't learned anything, then why did you die? So you learn something, and it's actually a pretty good story most of the time, which is what I want in a game like that. The worst part of it is, of course, since everything's systems driven and everything's sort of made, so your characters are procedurally animated. It's not really a straight up animation because water can rush in and your body's got to react. So they're more like rag dolls, which means there is a level of jank involved. So it's like you're going up ladders and your arms are sort of flailing around a little bit. So that becomes part of the charm, but you can get stuck on stuff and they've got ways around that. But it's not perfect in its polish, but as far as that kind of game goes, it's one of the most impressive I've ever seen, and I've certainly had a hell of a great time with it.
That's awesome, Paul. Where can we get Barotrauma?
At the moment, you can get it on Steam, but I got it on this month's Humble Choice on Humble Bundle.
Okay.
So that so these days they changed the way that works. So now that you can see the games and you can purchase it later. So if that makes you can get it for
if that's a thing,
$10 now or something. I'm not sure.
That's
I'm
cool.
an old-term subscriber.
Well, check out Steam if you'd like to play Barotrauma, and that was awesome review, dude. Congratulations! You've done your first review on Zed Games.
It's been a wonderful time. I'll see you all later. Goodbye.
That was it. GG. Just hang up. Well, it's also come to the end of our time on Zed Games tonight. It has been our pleasure hanging out with you, Paul.
Thank you for inviting me, Evie.
I look forward to having you in here more often and hanging out with you more. Zed Games actually have a D&D night coming up soon, so that's going to be fun. But yeah, on that note, thank you for coming in, and thank you everyone for tuning in. If there's anything you've missed from the show tonight, it does get posted on the Z Games Facebook page at ZEDGamesAU. The podcast goes up there every Thursday, so be sure to check that out. But on that note, see ya and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to Z Games. If you'd like to listen to more, check out our podcast on Spotify or follow us on social media at ZEDGamesAU. See you next time.